Chapter 49. Ayalen. Summary. It's time for goodbyes. First up, Ayalen. The walk through the forest was silent, everyone caught up in their own thoughts. It was finally time to leave the planet. Katsuki anxiously flexed his hands as he walked. They were going into town one last time to say goodbye to Ayalen and Mr. Zyuntuk. After that, they'd leave forever. It was a good thing. They needed to leave to get back to Earth. It was just... he wasn't one for goodbyes. He'd never really had to say goodbye to anyone before. Even when he left middle school, he didn't have anyone he felt the need to say goodbye to. Certainly not those extras. And for some reason, he'd had a feeling he wouldn't be able to get rid of Deku that easily. And they didn't exactly have time to say goodbye to anyone before they got abducted. But now, they were going, and he had someone to say goodbye to. Emerging from the trees revealed a little picturesque town. The first time they had seen it, they were fresh off the trafficking ship, barely able to make the trek. So much had changed for them since, yet the town looked the same. Large pastel buildings, cobbled streets, a storybook look interspersed with hints of technology. The soft, melodic chime of the town's clock drifted through the air. Katsuki felt his lips twitch up ever so slightly at the sight. The whole group had unconsciously come to a stop at the edge of the forest, just staring at the town. Katsuki took the first step forward. "Let's get this over with," he grumbled, and the rest followed. They walked through cobbled streets, the others saying farewell to familiar faces as they went. They tried to get him to join in, but the most he would do was give those extras a neutral grunt. The first stop would be Ayalen's, as it was the closest. Then they'd walk Pyerpa and Fastel to their friends, before all heading to Mr. Zyuntuk's. Before he knew it, they arrived at the Rocky Sentience place. Just beside the food stall was her house, old-fashioned compared to most of the town, with a slightly crooked door. The inside was something Katsuki had seen a handful of times. As they stepped inside, he couldn't help but think that it was just as homey as he remembered. And there, drinking a warm cup of tea in her reading nook, was Ayalen. Her white eyes looked over the group, lingering on their new clothes. The white mug makes a soft clink as she rests it on the table. "Is it time for you to go?" she says with a bittersweet smile. Katsuki couldn't bring himself to speak. It was like there was a lump in his throat. They hadn't exactly said that they were leaving today, but somehow she'd known. She was always pretty smart, picking up on the little things. Though it probably wasn't too hard with their outfits, and the fact that the lot of them showed up to her house early in the morning. No one said anything. They all just stood there, until Ayalen reached forward and gathered them all in a hug. As the closest to Ayalen when she grabbed them, he was the one in the center of her hug. Her stony skin brushed up against his cheek as he ever so slightly burrowed his head against her chest. This was really it. The lump in his throat grew. He didn't know what to think of everything. There were not many adults that Katsuki respected, let alone liked, but Ayalen had certainly made it into that category. She was tough, independent, running her business on her own before she'd hired Katsuki. She never took shit from anyone, especially rude customers. She never treated him like a child or tried to tame him like other people had tried to do. She seemed to genuinely like his company, which was definitely a first. He was going to miss her. Like he said, Katsuki was never really good at goodbyes, and he didn't know what to say, but right now, a hug was actually really nice. They all stayed that way for a while, just reveling in each other's presence. Then Ayalin spoke up. "You're all amazing, capable kids. I know you'll get home. And on the way, I'm sure those big hearts of yours will lend to helping quite a few people. Just make sure to look out for each other and stay safe. Oh, and message me every once in a while, yeah?" "Sure we will," Katsuki says with a tight throat. "I'll tell you about all the new recipes I come up with along the way." The others were wiping away tears, Deku especially, but Katsuki refused to cry. "We're going to miss you," Ochako said tearfully, squeezing tighter in the group hug. Watery sounds of agreement chimed from around the group. They'd miss the first person to show them kindness after 2 straight months of hell. Ayalin would always be the person who took them in off the streets and fed them, offered one of them a job. Even if they wouldn't see her every day, she'd still hold a special place in all of their hearts. They spent what was probably an hour at Ayalin's, just hanging out and eating one last home-cooked meal. They made sure to take in everything about her. The way her warm presence fills a room, the little lines that form every time she smiles, the unique sound it makes when her rocky skin rubs against itself. Everything. Then, it was time to go. The group stood at the door, reluctant to take that final step, to say that final goodbye. But before they can bring themselves to leave, Ayalin pulls something down from a high shelf Katsuki hadn't even noticed in her cluttered house. Here, I want you to have this," she says, holding in front of her a potted plant. "To remember Oxius by." The plant looks similar to a spider plant from back on Earth. Long, pointed leaves fan out from the middle, drooping down over themselves. The main difference between this plant and the ones he's seen on Earth was the color. It had the signature pink and green coloration of most flora they saw on the planet, like the forests they'd walk through every day. Ochako took the plant into her arms. "Thank you so much. We'll do our best to take care of it. Once we get into space, we'll send you a picture of just how it looks on the ship." Ayalin smiled warmly to them. "That'll be lovely. Message me soon, all right?" "Of course," Ochako says. Katsuki couldn't help one last glance back at Ayalin as they made their way down the street and towards the more residential area. He was going to miss her.